Greetings, this is Tier Nerd, and once again I have a crazy idea for a video. Uh, the best title I can think of is Fire Emblem 6 Linear Regression. Yeah, so what is this? Well, anyway, basically I'm gonna find out like how well do the stats of your characters correlate with each other? This idea can literally span videos. Like there's so much to talk about here about analyzing the stats. So um, anyway, I went to Serene's Forest and I just got a table of the base stats of every Fire Emblem 6 character. I removed Merlinus because his giant constitution of 25 was a bit of an outlier. I thought I'd take out Merlinus, but everyone else I left in. If they join you in hard mode, so I gave them hard mode bonuses if they join as enemies. So I gave them hard mode bonuses. Um, yeah. So pretty much, basically everyone, all the stats of the characters and when they join, like everyone, and their level and everything. If they join as a promoted unit, I added 20 to their level to make the analysis more even and fair. And I also found the averages of the stats, which actually isn't as useful as you would think, because this is analyzing their base stats, and some units join later in the game, obviously, and they have like really high base stats, so it kind of skews the data a bit. And that's why maybe I should have done growths or final stats instead, which I will do later. At some point, I'll probably do a video analyzing correlation between average final stats or the growth rates of the characters. But this is based on base stats, just to see, just out of curiosity, like what would happen? How well do stats correlate? And this idea alone can span several videos. I'm going to stick to just base HP. For this video, I'm going to correlate um, see how well does base HP correlate with all the other stats. That's basically what I'm going to do here. And some of the analysis is going to be kind of pointless because it'll be stuff like Constitution and Move, which they don't Constitution and Movement, they don't increase over time, so it's not a very good way to analyze it. But every other stat though does increase with every level, so there's quite a bit to analyze here. Now, average stats, yeah, like average level. The average character joins you at level 10, for example. The average HP is 27. The average strength or magic of a character is about 9.5. Their skills about 9.5. Is that speed? Speed is 10, so speed is actually one of the highest stats your characters join with. Uh, luck is kind of low, 7.5. Some characters have very low luck. That's probably why. I think that's defense. Defense is almost 7, so decent defense. Resistance is only 5. If you look at base resistance, a lot of your characters have very low base resistance. Like a lot of them have 0. Marcus has like 8, so he has pretty decent resistance compared to most characters. Um, some of them have like 13. Like Percival's really good. Cecilia's good. Yodel's ridiculous. He's got like 30. Nime's got like 18. But a lot of your characters don't really have very good resistance when they start out. But anyway, average resistance is about 5. Constitution is 8, so the average character joins you with 8 con, which is not bad. Some dudes are huge, like Douglas. Some are small, like Lilina. Movement, the average movement is almost 6, about 5.9. But this includes, some units start promoted, so their movement's gonna be a little higher. And same thing here. Some units start promoted, so their constitution's also going to be a little higher. But yeah, so these averages, that was just for fun. That's not terribly useful information. Anyway, so I kind of cleaned up the data here. We have 53 characters. So I'm going to analyze this data. I'm going to show it I'm going to show you exactly. Anybody can do this, but basically that's what I'm going to do. So this is HP right here. So I'm going to just copy this. So Excel's cool. Excel lets you do stuff like this. So I'm gonna this is my X variable. It's gonna be HP. I just plugged in all the HP right there. Then we have I think I'll do level last. I'm kind of interested in strength. I'll do level first. Yeah, let's see how well HP correlates with level. Let's do that. So I'm going to copy all of the levels. So just like I said, if it's a promoted unit, I added 20 to their level. I thought that was the most fair way to do this, to avoid bias, because if you put Marcus as level 1, it's going to skew it quite a bit because, he's promoted. So any promoted unit, I added 20 to their level. I figured that was the best way to go about doing that. So yeah, see, late game, you obviously get a lot of promoted units. As you know, early game, you're not going to get those. So that's going to be my Y variable. So I'm going to keep my base, my HP as the X variable, and then I'm going to keep changing the Y variable. I'm going to keep changing level, strength, whatever. I'm going to change this stat, but we're going to all correlate it with HP. See how well does your base HP correlate with all the other stats. So first we were going to do it level, like HP correlates with level. Like you would think logically it should, right? It should. So let's see what happens. Calculate. There. So there's a lot of math here. Predicted and residuals. So don't let the math scare you. I can explain in English what's going on here. This is a linear regression line, so it's pretty. So literally, this is giving you a formula to figure out the average HP a character would have at a given, the average level a character would have at a given HP value. So, for example, you plug in the HP and you would multiply it by 0.7821, and then you would subtract like about 10.9 or let's say 11, and that would calculate like on average how much HP, like what level the character should be at with that much HP. So if you type in like, let's say 60 HP, which, is the maximum. So let's see, that'd be about like 45, 48, 38. Yeah, like that makes sense. Basically at 60 HP, they should be like a level 18 character or something. Like a level 18 promoted unit. This is the regression line. It's going to make a line. This is showing the blue dots are all of the data values. And, it's showing X and Y. X is HP, Y is level, and it's correlating the two. The closer the blue dot is to the red line, the more average the character is. The farther away from the red they are, the more like of an outlier they are. So you have some characters that are outliers, like someone here has, like this person, this unit has 35 HP at level 40. So 35 HP at level, so 35, 40, 35 HP at level 40. Well, who could that be? Well, that is, that's Yodel, who has 35 HP and he's at level 40. So he's an outlier because, at level 40, at max level, you should have a lot more HP than just 35, but he doesn't. So he's an outlier. And then you got, that's probably Nime right there, 25 HP at level 38, which is, level 18 promoted. So, you have some outliers here, right? These units would be outliers in the negative sense, where they have less HP than they should. The blue dots down here, those are units with like a lot of HP and they're like a low level, like that one right there, 43 HP and they're only like level 5. 43 HP at level 5. Guess who that is? That is that's Gonzalez, actually. Like, I remember looking at it. Yeah, that's Gonzalez. So 43 HP at level 5. So Gonzalez is a huge outlier. He has way more HP than he should at level 5. So he's right there, 43 HP at level 5 down here. So these are the blue dots are the outliers. If they're far away from the red, that's an outlier. And here's another way you can see it. This is the residual plot. This is a little easier to look at because here it's kind of slanted with the red line. It's the same thing here. If the green dots are near the line, they're average. So you see a lot of units are about average, right? A lot of them are like close. The ones farther away from the line, those are the outliers. Like, like that's someone with 25 HP is like 29 HP. And then the number, so the first number is their HP. The second number is how many levels of like difference there is. So like it's how different it should be in reality. So for example, 25, 29.30. So this character has 25 HP, and they should be 29 levels lower than they really are to have that much HP. That's actually Nime. I bet that's Nime, who should be who. There are characters. The average character has that much HP, 29 levels below whatever Nime is. So a level 9 character would have like 25 HP. So it just shows you just how little HP Nime has. So this is like a ridiculously nerdy analysis of stats, but you can literally see like who are the outliers, which characters are kind of average, and you can kind of tell like once again that's Gonzalez right there, 43 HP, yeah 43 HP, and his HP is it says 17.7, so a character with that much HP should be 17.7 or like let's say 18 levels higher than he's at. He's a level 5 character, so if you add 18 of that, he should be like a level 3 promoted unit with that much HP basically. So Gonzalez like super high outlier in HP, and then you have like Nime and like Yodel with like other end where they have like almost no HP and they're like a super high level. So this is basically continuing. So most units will gravitate toward the line, but you will get some outliers like Gonzalez and Yodel and Nime. Now here's what's interesting. Most interesting is you have R squared and you have correlation. So we're going to look at correlation here. Notice correlation is about, this is what you call R. We're not going to get too crazy with the stats, but this is correlation right here. It's 0.705, so that's about 70%. We can see that right here. Right here, R squared is the variability, but right here, this is what we want to highlight. Correlation R equals 0.7049. It means there's a strong direct relationship between X and Y. So there's about a 70% correlation between base HP and level. So it's a decent correlation, but it's not like perfect. So just because a unit is a higher level doesn't mean they're going to have higher HP. There's only like a 70% correlation. It's not like 100% or like 90, 95. So it's a decent 70% is pretty good in the stats world, but it can be a lot better. It can be like 90% or 95, 100%, 99%. So, you would, for something like level, you would think level and HP would be highly correlated, like better than 70%, but no, 70% is what it's at. And the reason for that is because you get Jagans. That's really the main reason for this, is you have Jagans. You have Jagan characters who start off with much lower, lower stats than they should. So you get like Marcus should have higher HP, and Yodel and Nime should definitely have higher HP. And then you have the other way around. You have characters like Gonzalez who have like ridiculous HP for their very low level. So because of that, you get some, you get outliers, and that causes your R value to decrease. The correlation isn't as strong. So like right here, you have Gonzalez, and is that Zeus? That might be Zeus, and Milady might be here somewhere. She has really high HP. 55. Who has 55 HP? Like you can, like it's really interesting. Like you could find anybody literally on here. Someone has 55 HP. Oh, Garrett. Yeah, so Garrett starts off as a level 1 berserker with 55 HP on hard mode. So yeah, on hard mode, yeah, he's ridiculous. Like if you don't count for hard mode bonuses, then the correlation would probably be a little better because their HP would be lower, probably a little closer to the line. But yeah, the hard mode bonuses definitely give him a bunch of extra HP. So yeah, Garrett, that's Garrett right there. He has 11 levels of HP more than he should, for example, right there. So yeah, correlation is about 70%. So yeah, you can keep doing this with other stats, and it's like there's all this nerdy math stuff here. We're going to get into. I wouldn't say this is normally distributed right here. All this math here, all these numbers. We're not really gonna talk about that. So what I'm mostly interested in is like seeing like the outliers, like which characters are outliers from the norm. That's kind of interesting, and also the R squared value, just to see correlation. And what I'm interested in finding is like which stats correlate the best with HP, basically. And I'm going to do several videos. I'm going to be correlating like strength and all the other stats with each other, seeing like which stats correlate the highest. And some of it's going to be kind of obvious, but some of it might not be. Some of it might be kind of surprising information. So So level correlates quite well, 70% correlation with HP. But it's a spoiler, but it's not the best correlator. And so this is, we're going to look at correlation. We're going to look at, like which like, are there any outliers? Some characters are going to be outliers. You can look them up. Like, you can see who's an outlier. Like, it'll tell you the level of the HP value of the character, and then that number will tell you how many levels they're deviating from the norm. So like this person, 35 HP, 23 levels of deviation from norm. So that's Yodel. So he should be 23 levels lower. In order to have 35 HP on average, a character would be like 23 levels lower than Yodel. So that would be like a level 17 character. A level 17 character would on average have 35 HP. But Yodel is like level 40, he's level 20 promoted. So yeah, his HP is quite low. And this regression line is also kind of interesting because you can literally plug in like any HP value and it'll calculate like, oh, this is what level the average character would be. So this is for Fire Emblem 6. And at some point, if I get bored enough, maybe I'll do this for other games as well. But yeah, so that's correlating HP with HP with level. We can also try this for other variables as well. So let me pause here. Okay, so yeah, this is where the video is probably going to get a little more interesting. In my opinion, it's going to get a little more interesting. So I'm going to start correlating other variables with HP. So HP we're going to leave alone. We're going to keep changing. We're going to keep changing the Y variable. So this is HP. It's going to be X, and then this time around we're going to pick Strength and Magic. So Strength is going to correlate quite well. Now we do have a bit of an issue here. This isn't just Strength. This is Magic. So not only are you going to get physically strong units, you're also going to get strong mages, and strong mages don't necessarily have high HP. So there is going to be a little bit of a bit of a bias here, because it's not just strength; it's also magic. So yeah, let's change those Y variables. Let's put this. Okay, we can hit calculate once more. There. So this is correlating a base HP with base strength. So what's the correlation between HP and strength? And you can, and then a formula to calculate what strength you would have given a certain level of HP. So you would plug in the HP value for X. Half of it has, so half your HP, subtract about 4, and that would be about how much strength you should have. So yeah, it makes sense. Strength value is generally about, half of your HP plus a little bit less. So yeah, and then subtract 4. So this is just to estimate like how much strength or magic the average character would have given their HP value. Notice it's a little better this time. There are still some outliers, but a lot of them are close. Like who's that? That's interesting. This person has 25 HP. And they have 12 levels lower than they should. I bet that's Yodel. I bet that's Yodel again. Who has 25 HP? Oh, actually, I think that's Nime. Someone with 25 HP and 21 strength. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So actually it's the other way around. So she has 25 HP. She should be a lot weaker. She should be 12 levels lower in magic. But anyway, it's a bit of a discrepancy because she's a mage. So the ones farther away from the line are probably mages. They have lower HP. That's probably the issue here. But even with all those issues, look at the correlation. R squared is like good. We're not going to talk about R squared, but a correlation. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 0.882. Like right here. 88%. That's really good. Like, so strength actually correlates with HP extremely well. Strength is actually, so the strength or magic stat is a better indicator of your HP than level. Well, level doesn't say as much. Strength and HP correlate very well. So this is an 88% correlation. So this is a very strong direct relationship, not just strong, but like very strong. So that's an 88% correlation. That's very good. Like, so strength or magic, or technically strength and magic, is a better correlator than level. However, and this is given the fact that we're including magic. Like, if it was just the physical, if I just included the physical attackers and took out the mages, the correlation would probably be even better, because the mages actually have lower HP and they might still have good, good magic stats anyway. So if I took out the mages, the correlation probably, be even better. So anyway, yeah, so strength actually correlates very well. So after I'm done, I'm gonna like write down like which are the best, which are the best variables. Which ones correlate the best with HP? So yeah, there's a lot. There's so many things you could do here. So that's strength. Next, we could try skill. So skill, I'm gonna go through all of them. It's gonna get a little repetitive near the end, but at first it should be pretty interesting. You can see which ones correlate the best with HP. So now it's skill. So how well does HP correlate with skill? And this is base stats we're talking about. Yeah. So the skill stat's a bit lower. So 60, so your HP times about 38.5% minus about 1, and you'll get the average skill stat depending on, how much HP you have. And so we'll see how things correlate. Yeah, we'll do a lot of videos. Maybe I'll correlate everything with level or something in the next video. I don't know. I started with HP for some reason. I thought that was a good stat to use. So here we get some more outliers. Like pretty much everything close to the line. Like I'm just looking at this green. So notice a lot of them are really close. Like skill is a pretty good indicator, but you still get some outliers. Like you have some outliers here. You have some outliers out here. Someone's skill stat is like very different. So somebody has 44 HP and their skill stat is like 12 levels higher than it should be. I think that's what it's saying. It's not the other way around. And then someone here has 25 HP and their skill stat is like 11 levels 11 levels higher than it should be, or 11 levels low. Yeah, so basically it's very, just showing you the difference in the stats. So R squared, and then you have correlation. So 70% correlation. So skill actually correlates quite well with HP. 70%, not as good as strength and magic, but still pretty good. It correlates about as well as the level. Actually, level was about 70%. So right here you can get the correlation R. Don't worry about all the other stuff. That's harder. That's more technical stat stuff. But yeah, correlation R 70%. So about a 70% relationship between HP and skill. We're talking about, once again, we're talking about base stats. I could literally redo all of this for growth rates and then redo all of it again for average final stats, which I might do at some point because that does actually sound interesting. So that's skill. Next, we could try speed. Speed, let's calculate once again. So this is speed. How well does HP correlate with speed? Speed stat's a bit lower, 24% multiplied by your HP plus add about 4. That would give you the average speed stat given your HP. Very interesting. Yeah, it's actually a very low correlation. Now, I think I know why. So there's more deviation from the norm here. It's more all over. It's not as close to the line. There's more outliers. Now, the reason for that, I think, is because your speedy characters, like your Myrmidons and your Thieves, they generally don't have a lot of HP. They're fast, but they're low on HP. So I think it kind of shows that, speed and HP, they don't correlate quite as well. So your correlation is about 0.548. I mean, R squared is even lower. It's like 30%. So correlation is about a little under 55%, 54.8%. So that's a moderate direct relationship. So it's not quite that strong. So speed is not a very good indicator of HP. Now skill is a better indicator of HP, and so is level, and then strength is, so far strength and magic are the best indicators of HP. But so yeah, let's try again. So speed, speed's a bit weaker. Let's try luck. I'm kind of interested about luck. So we try luck next. So yeah, let's try luck. Let's see, make sure I enter stuff correctly. Yeah, 18. So anyway, so once again, we have a formula. The regression line equation is pretty interesting. It kind of it takes all of your data and it just makes a line. It basically averages out all the data into a straight line. Averages it out, assuming it's linear. And Fire Emblem stats, it's pretty safe to say, given the growth rates, that data in Fire Emblem is pretty linear because your growth rates are pretty static. It's a static percentage every level. It's not exponential. It's not quadratic. So it's safe to do linear regression with the stats. Definitely safe to do that. So luck, it's about 23% of your luck. 23% multiplied by your HP. So 23% of your HP, and then add 1. That should be approximately, what luck you would have on average, the average character. Let's see. A little more over the map. Yeah, a little more, but it's, once again, luck is not a very good indicator. It's actually better than speed. It's 0.587 correlation, so 58.7%. Speed was about 55, so luck is actually a slightly better indicator. Yeah, luck is a slightly better indicator of your HP than speed would be. 55%, 58%, 59%. So it's still not that great, but better than speed. And let's see what else. We have luck. We have defense. Now, defense is an interesting one. So now you would think defense would be very well correlated with HP, right? Like, defense and HP should correlate quite well, logically. Let's see what happens. So basically, once again, linear regression equation, about 31% multiplied by your HP, and then subtract 1. That would be approximately what your defense should be. So these units, they're pretty close, right? You have a lot of good correlation around here. You have some outliers here, though, where your HP and your defense don't really match up. Like, somebody has 55 HP, but their defense is about 5.5 levels lower than it should be, which I bet that's Garrett. I think Garrett's the one that had the 55 HP, and his defense just wasn't quite as good as it should be. And then you have characters that are like 46 HP, and their defense is like 7 levels higher than it should be. I wonder who that is. Someone with 46 HP, and their defense is a lot higher than it should be. I bet that's Douglas. That makes a lot of sense. That would be a general. A general would have higher defense than they should given their levels. So that's probably I bet that's Douglas right there, and I bet that's Garrett right there. So these units, they're very close to the line. The outliers are the ones out here. So berserkers, like, fighters and berserkers, they have high HP but low defense, so that's why they kind of tend to be down here. And then you have generals and, knights, they would probably be up here. And maybe Wyvern Knights as well. They would be up here. They have higher defense than they should given their HP. So guess what their correlation is? It's 0.738, actually, right here. 0.738 is the correlation. So you can see it right here. So it's a strong direct relationship, but it's not very strong. So now 73, so this is about almost 74%. This is a better indicator than level and skill, I think. Level and skill were about 70. So it's a little better than level and skill, but it's not as good as strength and magic. Strength and magic, it was like 88%. So defense is actually not the best indicator of a unit's HP. And strength is actually a much better indicator. Surprisingly, it's actually strength that correlates so far correlates best with HP, not the defense stat. Because with the defense stat, you have some outliers actually. So surprisingly, you have more outliers than you would think. So it's actually strength that correlates best. And next, we're almost done. Let's do resistance. Resistance should be an interesting one because you have a lot of zeros, and then you have some units with really good resistance like Yodel. Yodel is a complete outlier for that. I mean, 30 resistance. So we're gonna see how this turns out. I don't have very high expectations for resistance. So resistance. So 17% multiplied by your HP, and then add like almost nothing, like 0.35. So pretty much add 0 basically. Okay, these are your residuals. So these are they're pretty close to the line, but then you have some outliers. Notice, guess who that is? 35 HP, and their resistance is 23 levels higher than it should be. That's Yodel. Now, what's interesting though is that he's already level 40. He's level 20 promoted. So his resistance is so good that the average character would need another 23 level ups of resistance to have the resistance that Yodel has. That's how ridiculously high Yodel's resistance is compared to everyone else. They would need another 23 level ups to reach Yodel's status. That's how high his resistance is. And then I bet that's Nime. Nime, you would need like another 13 levels. You need to be at her level and then gain another 13 levels, and you would catch up to her resistance, which is like I bet that's 25. I bet that 25 resistance is Nime. 25 HP, yeah. It's to catch up to the resistance that she has. Which actually, oh yeah, right here you can see what it is. No, wait, that's the residual, right? That's not the actual value. This tells you, like, that number tells you the level difference, but if you want to see the actual Y values, you have to look here. So this plot and this plot, they both have a purpose. So the correlation looks decent, but you have a lot of outliers. You have Yodel and Nime, who are ridiculous outliers, and Yodel by himself probably really messes with the data. So it's a 31% correlation. So 31% correlation between HP and resistance. So it's not a very good correlation. Okay, so I'm back. Yeah, so resistance and HP, they do not correlate very well at all. We're talking like 31%, not very good. Now, what I'm kind of interested in is, because Yodel is such an outlier, which you can do, we can actually remove him. And I can actually find him quite easily here. I know he's the 30 right there. So what I can do is I can actually remove the 30 and then remove the 35 there. So that's Yodel. I just removed Yodel from the data. I'm going to see what happens now. I'm going to have to readjust the table, though, if I do this. I'm just kind of interested. What happens if I remove one person, Yodel, the outlier? Yeah, interestingly enough, it doesn't actually change much. Yeah, it went from like 30% to like 31%. Like, I think it went up like 1%, I think. It hardly changed. So even removing one person doesn't do much. What if I remove Nime? Yeah, I'm gonna input all the numbers back again after I remove everybody like that. Nime is the 4th from the bottom. Yeah, she's the 4th from the bottom. So her resistance is that 18. I can tell. Like, it's way higher than normal. Okay. Oh wow. Okay, removing Nime actually did a lot. Yeah. So by removing Yodel and Nime, I got it up to 36%. But anyway, I was just messing around. Like, even removing the two biggest outliers I could find, it's still, there's still not a lot. It doesn't really fix the situation. You still have a lot of outliers. And I think the main reason for that is because your mages tend to have high resistance, and mages generally have low HP. So and because of that, you have low HP units with high resistance, and you can have a lot of discrepancy. And in fact, I'm surprised I didn't get a negative correlation, which is where which might happen actually. And eventually, if enough of these videos, I might eventually stumble upon a negative correlation where two stats actually are inverted, as one increases, the other one decreases. That might happen too. But yeah, resistance is a very poor indicator of HP. 31% correlation, so not very useful. Strength is a very good indicator though. So copy. So we're gonna put the HP back in here after I deleted Yodel and Nime. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm gonna name this video to make it interesting. I mean, Fire Emblem 6 linear regression. I don't know if that's gonna attract people's attention. So Constitution. So now we're doing HP and Constitution. This should be interesting. Now the only problem with this though is that Constitution does not change as you level up. So there's a lot of so this one is not a very good stat to use because the units that join you later in the game, they're going to have much higher HP than the units that join you at the beginning, but their Constitution isn't really going to increase because, you know, it's just Constitution. It doesn't increase as you level up. So, so because of that, you know, we're kind of in this situation right here. So, so take this with a grain of salt. Constitution is not supposed to be a good indicator. So you multiply your HP by 22% and add 2. That should be your base Constitution, which is kind of ridiculous, you know, because that would mean a character that joins you like early in the game on average has a Constitution of like 6, which is not true because you get Cavaliers with like, you know, 9 and 10 Constitution. So you notice there's a lot of outliers, as there should be. I mean, this is not a very good indicator of anything. I'm actually kind of surprised, but the correlation is like 63%. I'm actually very surprised it's that high, given the fact that you have so many. There's so much bias here with the characters that join you later in the game, because they have higher HP and their Constitution doesn't really increase. So yeah, I'm surprised it's a 63% correlation. I mean, that's better than speed. Like your Constitution. I mean, I understand generally higher Constitution equals higher HP. That is true. So that is a good point. But, you know, you also have the discrepancy between late game characters having higher HP and their Constitution is still going to be kind of low. But still, 63% is good. I mean, that's a better indicator than speed. Speed was like 50%. So Constitution is a decent indicator. Not as good as strength, but still decent. 63% is your base Constitution. And then finally we have move. Now this one's just ridiculous. I don't expect anything out of this one. Movement should not correlate with you know, HP at all. So let's see, how does base HP correlate with movement? This is base movement. This is going to be a really weird looking graph. Wow. Okay, this is like 4%. Take 4% of your HP and add 5. But this doesn't make sense because this means higher HP units. Like, would a higher HP unit have more movement? And the answer is no, because generally, like, high HP units would be like generals or something, and they would have lower movement, right? It doesn't really. And then you have flyers and cavaliers though who do have decent HP. So this is the weirdest looking graph. Like, you can see how they, like, you can see the slanted lines because movement values aren't, there's not a lot of movement values, like, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. I think it's just those, the 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. Like that's your movement basically, unless you use boots, which, you know, this isn't taking that into account. But yeah, these are 4 movement. That's 8 movement. So 4 movement, 5 movement, 6 movement, 7 movement, 8 movement. Oh, so you can actually see how many characters join your party at a given movement. So you have 3 characters that join your party with 4 movement. I bet I know who those are: Boris and Wendy and, you know, Barth right here. Here's all the characters that join at 5 movement. There's quite a lot. Here's all the characters that join at 6 movement. Almost just as many as the 5 movement ones, actually, if not more. And then here's all the 7 movement, the Cavaliers and the Wyvern Riders that join your party. And then here's the 8 movement people. So these are like the promoted, these are like the Paladins that join you, like Marcus, Zealot, Percival, and then like 3 more, you know. Probably like and Diane, and there's probably one more I can't think of, but I think I'm just missing one more that should be in there. Yeah. So and these are the residuals. So as you can see, this is not a what's the correlation? 35%. Yeah, correlation's not very good. It's like, so this is a weak correlation. 35%. Better than resistance though. Resistance is the worst indicator of HP. Movement is actually a slightly better indicator of HP than resistance in this case. Wow, so I said a lot. This video was a lot longer than I thought because I just completely nerded out. There's just so much to say here. And all I did was correlate HP with everything. I mean, I still haven't correlated strength with defense and strength with skill and all. There's all these other combinations you can do. And this is just for base stats. This is just base stats. Like we could do this for growth rates and average final stats, which I think will be more interesting because there won't be as much bias, I think. It'll be a little more fair, the comparisons. Like constitution and movement, like movement doesn't increase either. And there's not a lot of variety in movement, so this is just going to be a poor indicator. Constitution, it's not as bad. But yeah, strength and magic actually is the best stat of indicating HP. They have an 88% correlation, so very, very decent correlation between HP and your strength, and magic as well, surprisingly. Yeah, so this is it. I don't know what else to say about this video, but anyway, I'll probably do a few more of these. And yeah, so stay tuned for more random, nerdy videos like this.